This video is going to go over Unit 2, Lesson 3, Interacting Body Systems. We're going to go from the introduction until section 8. Okay, so interacting body systems. How do your body systems work together? Right, so remember that you have your vocabulary words here: skeletal system, muscular system, organ, digestive system, respiratory system, circulatory system, excretory system, which is the same thing as the urinary system for our purposes, and the reproductive system. Remember that you have vocabulary cards here and the glossary for the entire book. And so the introduction talks to you about, suppose that you're on a team building a robot, perhaps it's a robotics team. And you can think about a robot as a system and each part of the robot as a subsystem. Say, for example, the pieces that make up the structure of a robot are one subsystem. The wires that send signals to make the robot move are another subsystem. And the remote control that you use to control the robot's movements is another subsystem. Now, you should know that no single subsystem can make the robot perform all of its functions, but it can function if all of these subsystems work together. How is a robot and all its interacting parts like a human being? Well, just like a human being, the human body is made up of interacting subsystems that allow it to function, right? Allow it to work. Each part of the human body is called a subsystem. And we call those subsystems body systems. Each of these body systems performs a certain function for the body, so a specific job for the body, right? So we are going to look at the runner's heart, blood vessels, and bones, right? The runner's heart will pump blood through blood vessels and deliver oxygen and nutrients to all parts of the body. The lungs will take in oxygen and help supply energy to the muscles. And bones, the bones are there to connect muscles, right, and enable the person to move. So it makes you think about what body systems do these parts belong, right? How do you think they interact? What do you think would happen if one of these parts was not working properly? And so in this lesson, you're going to learn about how parts of the body work together to allow a person to function and move using the example of a person running. You're going to begin to learn about subsystems that make up an organism's body. These body systems exist in humans and many other animals and plants. And finally, you're going to learn about how scientists can use other organisms' body systems to model human body systems. Section 1, skeletal and muscular systems. So for most of human history, people have had to hunt for meat and search for edible plants to eat to meet their needs for survival, right? And to meet their needs for food. So hunting was often required, right? And humans back then had to run to catch their prey, hide in trees, carefully throw weapons at the prey as the prey tried to escape. And so how does the human body allow a person to run, stand, hide, and throw? Think about all the things that you do in a day, right? So my hope is that you got enough sleep, then you stood up, and then you started walking. Perhaps you're taking a seat right now, listening to this video, and then you're going to get up again. And maybe when you go to PE class, you are going to run, right? So the human body goes through so many different activities throughout the day. The skeletal system is an important part of the body for allowing a person to move. The skeletal system is the framework of bones that supports an organism's body, protects its internal structures, and allows the body to move. This framework gives the body its overall structure and shape. I want you to think for a moment, right? The skeletal system is made up of skeletons. What would happen if we didn't have any of our bones, right? we would probably end up on the floor as a big blob of muscles and organs, and we wouldn't really be efficient in moving from one place to another. And so the skeletal system, as simple as it is very important. The structures that connect bones with bones are called ligaments. The structures that connect bones with bones are ligaments. So think about your ACL, right? Some people might have heard of, others maybe injuring their ACL. The ACL is it's around the knee, and the L there stands for ligament, right? It's there and it holds the bones in your legs together, right? Let's see if I can type that out. ACL. The ACL, right? The L in ACL in around the knee, right, stands for ligament because it's connecting at least two bones to each other, right? The femur, right, the upper thigh bone, and then your lower leg bones right here, the tibia and fibula. And so some bones though, right, such as the skull and ribs, protect soft internal organs. The skull, for example, protects our brain. The ribs, right, form a rib cage that protect the heart and lungs. Other bones interact with muscles to cause movement. And speaking of movement, right, we can't move simply with just our bones. We also need the muscular system. The muscular system consists of all the muscles in the body. The muscles cause movement when they contract, aka shorten, right? And muscles, when they're connected to bones, are called tendons. This exists here when you're looking at, say, your arm muscles connected to the shoulder bones, right? And so when the muscles are connected to bones, they're called tendons, right? They're connected by structures called tendons. Not all muscles are for moving the skeleton though, right? The heart is a part of the muscular system because it too is made up of muscle. The heart muscle contracts, right? And it's what causes our heart to beat. Other muscles in the muscular system help move food or blood through the body. The skeletal muscular systems are examples of body systems. Right? A body system is a group of organs that works together to perform a particular function in the body, right? The body system is a group of organs that work together to perform a specific job in the body. And an organ is typically a self-contained structure that carries out a particular function in the body. So say, for example, a bone is the organ of the skeletal system. The tendons and ligaments are other organs of the skeletal system. The brain, heart, and stomach are also examples of organs for other body systems like the nervous system, the circulatory system, and the digestive system. So no single organ can do the job of an entire body system. The skeletal muscular systems work together to help a person move. So check out the example on the right-hand side, figure 1B. It shows how biceps, right, both of these are biceps, and triceps, the under the arm muscles, move, right, and how they bend at the elbow. And so the biceps and triceps are attached to bones in the arm and shoulder, right here by tendons, right? And so because we're looking at muscles connected to bones, they're connected by structures called tendons. Starting with a straight arm, right? So starting with this image right here, when the biceps muscle contracts, when they shorten, right? It pulls on the bones it's connected to. Now, when you're going from straight to bent, right, the biceps shorten. And when they shorten / contract, the triceps then relax. They do the opposite. And as, say, for example, you're bending your arm, right? It's kind of bending almost like a door's hinge, right? It's swinging open and close, open and close. When you straighten your arm at the elbow, you're going from bent to straight. The triceps then contract, and then the biceps relax, right? The triceps contract and the biceps relax. Many muscles attached to bones work in pairs like this, and they move in a way that you're able to move in one direction or another. Similar concept with your legs. Think about the muscles in your legs and see if you can think about which muscles are contracting and which muscles are relaxing. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to section 2, the digestive system. And so thankfully, we no longer have to hunt for our food, right? But we still need to eat multiple times a day. All animals, of course, need food to survive. Food gives us the energy to run, throw, move, even sleep. Right? An organism's body runs on the energy stored in food, but how does the body get energy from food? Because the body can't directly use the energy found in food. And to be used by the body, the food has to be broken down first or digested into simpler substances. And that's the job of the digestive system. This is a body system that breaks down food into substances that can be absorbed and used for energy. And it's also there to get rid of any remaining solid waste that cannot be absorbed. The food that we usually eat contain carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And when we take in this food, when we ingest this food, they're broken up into simpler substances that can be absorbed or used and used throughout the body, right? When we say absorbed, right, it means to take into, right? To take into the body, right? To absorb. Because think about a sponge. When a sponge is absorbing water, it's taking water into the sponge. So anytime we say that we're absorbing anything into the body, right? We're taking in whatever it is that we're talking about into the body, whether it be nutrients or water, etc. And so the digestive system, it forms a long tube from the mouth to the rectum, right? And you have hollow muscular organs that make up different parts of the tube, starting with the mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and rectum. Digestion starts at the mouth in 2 different ways. So mechanical digestion, right? Mechanical digestion. Let me see if I can put this somewhere where we can see it. Put it here, mechanical digestion, right? And that is basically when we chew, grind, and mash our food with our teeth, right? That's one way that we digest food. The other way we digest food is through chemical digestion. And chemical digestion, they have it here, is how food changes into different substances through chemical reactions. And believe it or not, you have chemical reactions going on in your stomach. Your saliva is breaking down large carbohydrates into simpler sugars. So say, for example, you're eating a hamburger, right? Your teeth are going to break up the pieces of the bun, meat, lettuce, and tomato. Your saliva is going to break down the carbohydrates in the bun into sugars. Your tongue is going to help by moving around the food in your mouth and pushing it toward your throat, right? And swallowing it will cause the food to go to the next organ, which is the esophagus. The esophagus is the part of the digestive system that'll connect your mouth to the stomach, right? Here's the esophagus. Your mouth is connected to the stomach by the esophagus. This right here is the liver. So your food goes from your mouth, esophagus, stomach, then small intestine, then large intestine, and the food will then exit the rectum once we have only waste. And so the stomach is just a bag-like organ made up of strong muscles. You have a lot of digestive juices in there, and there you have more chemical digestion happening. You have a very acidic environment in the stomach, right? And so this helps our food become easier to digest when food particles are broken down even more. Then your food then goes to the small intestines, right? The small intestine is the longest organ of the digestive system, measuring 6 meters at least, right? In humans, on the first or second day of school, we had a demonstration about how long the small intestine is, right? It's about 6 to 7 meters. And most of the digestion of proteins and carbohydrates takes place here in the small intestines, right? The small intestine is there to absorb or take in your nutrients that have been broken down, and it will transfer those nutrients into the bloodstream, right? And that blood will transport those nutrients to all parts of the body where energy is stored and nutrients can be released. There are also 2 organs that are not part of this hollow tube that go from your mouth to your rectum, but they do help with digestion. And so here we have the liver. And this liver produces digestive juices that break down fats, like fat in hamburger meat. It's also there to get rid of toxic chemicals. So people who drink, say, for example, wine and beer, right? The liver is responsible for getting rid of anything that's toxic. So it's there to break down all of those toxins. The pancreas produces digestive enzymes that continue to break down fats, carbohydrates, and proteins into even smaller substances. Then your food makes its way to the large intestine, where the job of the large intestine is to absorb as much water as possible, right? If we still need water, this is where it's going to happen. It's there to absorb any remaining water, and anything else that's left will be released as waste through the rectum. And so I want you to think about when you eat your food, it takes many hours for it to go through this digestive system. We'll move on to section 3, the respiratory and circulatory systems. And so thankfully, we don't have to pay too much attention about when we're breathing, when our heart is beating, because these things happen automatically. But I would hope that you've noticed by now, right? When you are running, your heart's going to beat faster and you begin to breathe more rapidly. And so this happens because when we are exerting ourselves, we need to take in more oxygen and push out more carbon dioxide. Your body requires oxygen for releasing energy from broken down food. Running is an activity that uses a lot of energy, so more oxygen is needed during these times. Chemical reactions, right? During these chemical reactions, carbon dioxide waste is formed. If you have too much carbon dioxide in your body, it's going to be too toxic for you. So it needs to be removed from the body before it causes any harm. The respiratory system is a body system that will bring oxygen into the body and remove carbon dioxide waste. The main organs of the respiratory system are your pair of lungs, right? And so when you inhale, air containing oxygen will pass from the environment, right, the air, through your nose and mouth into your lungs through tubes. And at the end of these tubes are very tiny air sacs called alveoli, which have very thin walls. And this is where gas exchange occurs. Oxygen entering the lungs passes from the tubes through these air sacs, right? And this is where the respiratory system interacts with the circulatory system at these air sacs called alveoli. If you want to be fancy, here's how you spell alveoli. Okay, so next we have the circulatory system. The circulatory system consists of your heart and blood vessels, and its job is to circulate blood throughout the body. Because our heart is pumping, right? It's a muscle that pumps blood throughout the body. We are able to get oxygenated blood near the lungs, right? And it goes through this vein, right? Which is a type of blood vessel. We have two veins here that we need to know about. Veins that carry blood from the rest of the body to the heart. Arteries carry blood away from the heart. Think about A for away. Arteries carry blood away from the heart. Veins carry blood back to the heart. Okay, so let's go to the next section, section 4. The excretory system. And so think about when you take a deep breath and you exhale on a cold day, you should be able to see water vapor, right, in the air. You go, right? On a cold day, you'll be able to see some of that water vapor, and in that water vapor, you'll have some carbon dioxide there. That's one way we get rid of waste. Another way we get rid of waste is through sweating and through urine. Most of your body's liquid waste is removed in the form of urine. And interestingly, you're less likely to urinate when you're running because much of the excess water in your body is going to be released through sweat instead of urine. The job of your excretory system is to get rid of liquid waste. And so not everything can be organized into clear, distinct units in science. And so biologists have to accept some amount of ambiguity or uncertainty or inexactness when making a distinction between body systems. So for example, the excretory system also belong to other body systems, right? So we've learned that the digestive system eliminates waste after nutrients from digestion are absorbed. So the large intestine, including the rectum, is part of both the digestive and excretory systems. The lungs are part of the excretory system as well as the respiratory system. They function to take in oxygen, but they also get rid of carbon dioxide waste. In addition to getting rid of waste, one important function of the excretory system is to regulate the amount of water in the body. It's very important that we know this, right? The urinary system is a part of the excretory system, and that helps get rid of liquid waste by filtering the blood, as well as regulating the amount of water in the body. So on the right-hand side, we have the urinary system here. You have 2 kidneys and a bladder connected by ureters. And so the kidney, what happens here is that blood flows through each of these kidneys. And when blood flows through each of these kidneys, it basically decides to take in nutrients back into the body to absorb nutrients and water that we need. And anything else, so excess water and any sort of waste that's liquid, right, will go straight to the bladder where it's stored until we release that liquid waste as urine. The bladder is just a hollow bag made of muscle that stores waste as urine. And so section 5 reminds us that you have systems that work together. Here we have the heart and some lungs. I want you to notice a few things here and remind yourself, right? You have blood vessels connected to the heart, and you have arrows pointing to the heart and arrows pointing away from the heart. The blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart, again, are called arteries, right? Blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart are called arteries. Whereas blood vessels that carry blood to the heart are called veins. Okay. Now, all body systems, they all have to interact to make a functional body. We've learned that when you run, the body needs to use muscles to move bones, and because these muscles need energy, the runner needs to eat food, which is broken up into nutrients by the digestive system, and these nutrients are carried from the digestive system to the muscles using the circulatory system. In the muscles, the energy is released from the nutrients and chemical reactions that use oxygen, and this oxygen is delivered to muscles by the respiratory and circulatory system. So all of this is to say that all of these body systems work together to move materials around our body when we need it, right? Whether that be oxygen, carbon dioxide, or nutrients. The lungs, right, then take in oxygen from the air where it's transferred into the blood, and the heart muscle will contract to pump that oxygen-rich blood to the whole body. While traveling through the body, the blood will pick up waste like carbon dioxide, send it back to the lungs so that we can exhale that leftover carbon dioxide. And so here I want to mention a muscle called the diaphragm, right? Here they have a note. Even a runner will need both the muscular and skeletal systems, right? And they need both of those systems to work with the respiratory system just to breathe in and out. So here there's this muscle called the diaphragm. There's a muscle called the diaphragm. And this diaphragm is right here underneath the lungs. And its job is to basically push and pull on the lungs, right? Its job is to push and pull on the lungs. And so here it is contracted, right? Here you have a contracted diaphragm. And during inhalation, when you are inhaling, right? Notice the arrows here as you take a deep breath. On the right-hand side, we have the diaphragm that is relaxed, right? So here it's contracted. On the right-hand side, we have a relaxed diaphragm during exhalation, right? While we're exhaling. And when we have a relaxed diaphragm, it then pushes the lungs upward so that we can exhale. There are a few things I want to bring up here. And so one thing is that I want you to notice this lung has 1, 2, 3 lobes. This lung has 1, 2 lobes. And the reason for that is because on this side, we need room for the heart, right? We need room for the heart. And so that's why on the left side, our bodies only have 2 lobes, and on the right side, we have 3 lobes. Another thing I want to point out is the fact that I've said that this is the right side and this is the left side, even though when I'm looking at it, my right hand is on this side and my left hand is on this side. And the reason for that is we're pretending that we are looking at a potential patient, right? We are looking at a patient who's laying down in front of us. And if they're laying down in front of us, right? If the patient is laying down in front of us, right? This is going to be their right side and this is going to be their left side. Think about all the medical professionals, firefighters, EMTs, nurses, doctors, when they're studying their medical text, right? You want them to think about anything they're studying in terms of what it's going to look like when they're looking directly at a patient. So for that reason, that's why this side of the body is the right side and this side of the body is the left side. It's you looking at a patient, okay? And so now we're going to go on to the next section. This section is just a video that I trust you can watch on your own. And section 6, the reproductive system. You've learned that organisms produce offspring, right? And so which body systems are needed to produce offspring? Well, we're looking at the reproductive system. That's the body system that allows adults to produce offspring. And so unlike other body systems, the reproductive system is not fully functional as soon as you're born. It needs to first mature. And it's this process that usually occurs during your teenage years. And so also, unlike other body systems, male and female reproductive systems are different. However, both make specialized reproductive structures. The male system produces sperm. The female reproductive system produces eggs. Both kinds of structures contain information to create a new organism. And so here, figure 6 points out the male and female reproductive systems. And so in the biological male reproductive system, you'll have 2 testes and a penis. And in the biological female reproductive system, you'll have a vagina, 2 ovaries, and a uterus. And then the note here says the reproductive organs in males and females are different. The male testes make sperm that are released from the body through the penis. The female ovaries make eggs. An egg that is fertilized by sperm develops into a fetus in the uterus where it's protected and nourished. So sperm are created in the testes, eggs are created in the ovary, it's fertilized in the fallopian tube, and it ends up in the uterus where it could develop into a fetus. And so the male reproductive system, right? We're looking at the main organs of the male reproductive system. You're looking at 2 testes in the penis. The testes, again, produce sperm, and the penis releases the sperm out of the body. The female reproductive system consists of 2 ovaries, a uterus, and a vagina. The female system has 2 functions. Its functions are to produce eggs and to protect a developing fetus. Eggs are produced in the ovaries. And so if the sperm and an egg unite, the fertilized egg, which is what it's called, can develop into a fetus, right? When sperm meets egg, it's then called a fertilized egg. The fertilized egg then travels through the tube from the ovaries to the uterus and attaches into the inner wall of the uterus to begin the development of a fetus. And so this uterus will provide protection and food for the developing fetus for about 9 months, when it's going to grow and develop until it's ready to be born. The muscles of the uterus contract and the fetus is pushed out of the mother's body through the vagina during birth. Section 7, it goes through body systems and other animal species, right? So it says we may not look like a grasshopper or a snail, but there are many ways that our bodies are similar to theirs. And so I want you to think about the skeletal systems of the shell of a snail, the exoskeleton of a grasshopper, and then the bones of a fish, right? They're very much similar to the functions that we have for our skeletal systems. It's there to protect the animal. It's there to provide the framework for them. And then when you think about their circulatory systems, it kind of does the same function as it does for us. It's there to distribute, to circulate the blood throughout their bodies, right? To deliver oxygen throughout their bodies and release carbon dioxide. So even though they look different than we do, they have similar body systems. And so because other types of animals have similar needs for energy and resources as humans, their bodies can have similar structures and functions to us, right? Snails, insects, and fish have circulatory systems made up of heart and blood vessels. The fish's circulatory system kind of works like ours. Other animals like snails and grasshoppers, they have an open circulatory system, meaning the oxygen and nutrients dissolved in fluid don't have to stay in the tubes of the blood vessels until they reach their destination. Instead, the body is soaked in this fluid. And even though the system is not exactly like our system, it has the same function of pumping oxygen and nutrients throughout the body. And although neither a snail or a grasshopper has bones, it has a form of a skeleton that gives it the body's structure, support, and protection. The grasshopper's exoskeleton is basically a version of a skeleton outside of its body. Exo means outside of. Okay, and so let's go to section 8, plant body systems. A Venus flytrap is a plant that catches insects and digests them using the digested food for growth. If you forgot how a Venus flytrap looks like, go ahead and Google that. How does this plant have a digestive system like in humans or other animals? And they don't really have a stomach or a small intestine, but they do have systems that are similar to our body systems. And so even plant species that don't catch animals for food are very similar to how humans and other animals are structured. And so structures like the human skeletal system, plants have stems that function in a similar way. They don't have, obviously, skeletons or shells, but the rigid stems will hold that plant upright and give it support, kind of like how our skeletal system does that for us. Stems also hold the leaves up to the sunlight so that they can make food. And in addition, a plant's root system will anchor the plant in soil so that it doesn't blow over in the wind. Structures like the human circulatory system. So many species of plants have a circulatory system in their stems that consists of 2 sets of hollow tubes. Xylem tubes carry water and dissolve nutrients upward from the roots into the leaves. Phloem tubes carry food from the leaves where it's made to all parts of the plant. So if you cut a stalk of celery crosswise, you'll see these tiny bundles of tubes, right? And you'll be able to see these branching tubes on the top and bottom surfaces of the leaves. And just like blood vessels in humans, these tubes will carry food, water, and nutrients all over the body of the plant. And so here, this diagram shows the xylem and phloem, right? Again, the xylem, its responsibility is to carry water, dissolve nutrients upward from the roots to the leaves. The phloem tubes carry food from the leaves to all parts of the plant. And so structures like the human respiratory system, plants also have a respiratory system that's responsible for taking air and releasing waste, right? Taking in air and releasing waste. But unlike us, plants take in carbon dioxide. They want carbon dioxide and they get rid of oxygen as waste. And so plants need carbon dioxide to make food by a process called photosynthesis. They also need to get rid of excess water vapor as well as oxygen, which is a waste product from photosynthesis. Kind of like our lungs, plants have structures that help regulate this exchange of gases in the air. Plants also have stomata, which are basically tiny openings in leaves, right? Tiny openings in leaves that act like a plant's respiratory system. Stomata are generally too small to be seen by the eye, so you would need a microscope to take a picture of the stomata on a plant leaf. The stomata open and close to control how much gas passes through the plant, right? Carbon dioxide will enter the plant from the atmosphere, and oxygen and water vapor will exit the stomata. And so structures like the human reproductive system, the function of a plant's reproductive system is to also produce offspring, just like us. And so plants make sperm and eggs as well. Often sperm can be found within pollen and eggs can be found within flowers. In many plants, a fertilized egg will develop into a seed in the same way that a fetus can form from a fertilized egg in humans. And so interestingly, some plants are able to make sperm and eggs within the same plant. So not all plants can be distinguished as male or female. Okay. And so that concludes this video. Hopefully that was helpful. Let me know if you have questions.